everybody, this is Perch, and I did a video about this a bit ago, and then I was going to process it and put it all through, and I'm like, I'm going to redo it all because, as sometimes happens, I record these things, and then like a week and a half goes by, and I get around to actually, converting them into a video format, and out it goes. It's like you're watching all this on time delay. At some point, conventions are going to open up again, and I'm just going to go to a bunch, and I'm going to wear a big Winnie the Pooh t-shirt and a jacket, and people are going to be, I'm just going to meet people. It's wonderful. And then there'll be some other poor bastard wearing a Winnie the Pooh shirt who is super confused why people are coming up and just punching that guy all the time. See, this is how I throw people off the scent. It's all a plan. Anyway, the topic I was getting to, I hit once before, and it went kind of sideways in the comments, and I feel like this one will as well. I do notice that when certain topics, it feels like we have an inability to just talk about them in a logical, sane kind of manner. Things always, we're just way too uptight about things. And I always admire people who can listen to something that they disagree with and come back with a normal answer. The Strenko video got a couple of those responses of just people like, I can't believe it. It's like, no, you didn't listen. You didn't listen at all. Regardless, what I want to talk about is these. It's the topic of racism in comics. And in particular, this was brought up the earlier video. I was taking it from the Dr. Seuss perspective because Dr. Seuss is in the news right now, and it's in the news, or it kind of was in the news. I think we're kind of getting over that now, but we're on to the next outrage, or that was 3 outrages ago. I think the Meghan Markle interview on Oprah is probably taken that. And by the time you listen to this, we'll be talking about space boots or something. But basically, what's going on in the Dr. Seuss situation is, again, and this is not a video about whether it's right or wrong. That's not the point. I don't want to go down that path. Plenty of other people can talk about that. I'm not trying to play a neutral road either. It's just not the topic. There are some books and there's some characters inside the books that are present in a racial caricatures of things. And by today's standards, they are considered racist. If you drew these characters in this way today, like if I'm the editor to a magazine and I threw in some images of Indians or black people or drawn in this style, Chinese people with overly exaggerated kind of facial expressions and teeth and kind of the hat and everything else, that would not fly. I couldn't do that today. I would be, and I think correctly called out as drawing a racist caricature. The question, the debate comes up with, okay, well, what do you do when these things were drawn, 80 years ago? And, the book is beloved, people are reading it, but it's clearly from the past. It's not current. What is it that you do? And so what happened in the Dr. Seuss case, as I'm sure everybody here knows, they ultimately took the books out of print and they're gone. People are saying they banned the books. It's not quite it. That's not completely accurate. They took the books out of print so you can't buy them. Basically, you try and go with I heard on Mulberry Street or whatever happens to be that book is you can't go to Amazon and buy that. And just for the record, I know that again, it's good to be accurate. You can be against this, and it's fine. And as you'll hear, I tend to be against this, but I'll explain exactly why. Please be accurate. They did not take Cat in the Hat out of print. They took some books, 4 of which, me too. The I Want to Live at the Zoo, I think was another one. I'm not getting these titles right, but only 2 of the titles are ones that are more known Dr. Seuss books. And that doesn't make it better or worse. Just we should be accurate when we're talking about what's actually been pulled. Green Eggs and Ham was not pulled. I was watching somebody talking about how that now there's no more Green Eggs and Ham. No, that's still there. It's fine. The Sneesix or whatever with the stars on the bellies, that book's still out there. It's just let's be correct about what we're saying. Is my point. Why does this have to do with comics? Well, of course, comics has many of these similar descriptions. You probably have seen, because people have been posting this image a lot lately, particularly when they want to point out that comic books have always been political, they'll show the picture of Captain America punching Hitler. What they don't tend to show around the same period is another very political image, which would be like Superman using a fully offensive slur against the Japanese, and a bunch of very obviously racist characters of Japanese people running around and like Superman throwing bombs at them and stuff. That was going on too around the same time period. For whatever reason, people stick with the cap punching Hitler image and they don't use those other ones for, I don't know, who knows why they don't use those other ones. But what do you do about these? Shazam, the Captain Marvel, the DC Captain Marvel, had a black friend, a partner that would kind of hang along with him, and he was drawn in a super exaggerated racist image. And again, I'm using these words racist. I do believe, and I know I don't disagree with people, and this is what I think gets people really irritated. When this is drawn in the 40s and the 50s, there was more social acceptance over that kind of imagery. Doesn't necessarily make it right. I don't know that anyone went to ask black people, hey, what do you think about this? Probably not. But it is a definite different time period from the 40s and the 50s to today in 2021. That's not a opinion. It's a statement of fact. It's a different year. Times have changed. Things that a majority of the population thought were cool then do not think it's cool now. And this is where I get to being pragmatic about it. And kind of the reason for this video, my question here, is you cannot, unless one of you out there in the listening audience or maybe somebody in Joe Biden's cabinet has a time machine and the ability to go back in time and fix those images. Basically, somebody goes back in time, heads over to the comic book office, takes the pen out of the hand of the artist, like, hey, you can't draw Japanese people like that. Superman, you need to have Superman fighting, ethically correct images. You can't do that. Stop. Unless somebody has that time machine ability to do this, talking about fixing it in the past is a completely useless conversation. You can't do it. It's happened. It's one directional. This is the linear verse. We're moving forward. You can't go back and alter the past. If a time machine comes onto the scene, I will apologize and we can have a different conversation about things you can do. But today, can't. All right? If I do have a time machine, somebody go back in time and prevent me from making this video in the first place because it will have been meaningless. So the conversation becomes, what do you do today? And I think you have basically three options on hand. Some talk about a fourth option, which is absurd, and I'll explain in a moment. But option number one is you do what happened in the case of Dr. Seuss. You pull the books from print. You make sure nobody's reprinting these issues, and they're done. You call it a day, and you can't find these comics, and they're not for sale. A slight complication there is that there's auctions. People are auctioning off original graded comics and things for collectors. Some have called for auctions to no longer auction these books, and sometimes auctions won't. But that gets down a very strange and slippery slope, I think, very quickly, because if you're auctioning off a collector bit of art or a comic collection, what do you do in this case? If you're auctioning off a run and issue 14 has a very kind of racist image of a Native American, what do you like? Do you take that one out? Do you auction off the other issues? Do you not auction off anything? Because there's questions to be answered there. So, but option one is you take the whole thing out of print, can't buy it. Option two is you get somebody to go in there and, like Rich Buckler style, you basically redraw in the same style of the original artist, and you redraw them in a socially acceptable way. And you say, all right, these books are now, we can continue to reprint Captain Marvel, Shazam, because the sidekick it no longer looks racist. We've redrawn it, and we've taken pains to redraw it in a style that doesn't look jarring. How funny would that be, though? By the way, you get like Rob Liefeld to come in and draw this sidekick in his current style, right next to it. That'd be hilarious, actually. Come to think of it. The problem there again is it still doesn't solve your collector issue. Where if you've got these comics in your comic shop, what do you do with that? You can't. You take those away and then redraw them and then give them back to the comic shop. That seems impractical. Okay, and then there's option three, which is you basically tell people, hey, we don't let our current artists at Marvel and DC draw people that look like this. We don't do racist caricatures of people anymore. That will not get printed, but we can't change the past. And if we're going to reprint these omnibuses of this original work from the 40s, we're going to reprint it as it is. And buyer beware. If this is racist or triggering, you're going to have to. Sorry, this is what happened at the time, and this is what you're getting. I think those are the three options. I think you have to pick one of those. I don't think there's an option 4 that has been discussed, which is somebody should go around and seize all the copies of the racist comics and destroy them, pulp them. That is not. I don't know how you pull that off. I'd love to hear somebody's plan for that. It feels very similar, and this is just going to lead to more anger and dislikes, I'm sure. But it's when people say, "Hey, the only solution to guns in the United States is that we must collect them all up and destroy them all," and it's like, okay, that's an idea, but practically, how do you do that? Like, are you going to go door to door? What happens if somebody doesn't give you their? Like, I don't know how you pull this off. That's where whenever we have political debates and people talk about the gun control issue and they're like, we're going to seize all the guns. I'm like, but how? Like, literally, I'm actually curious. I'm not saying it like as a, you can't take my gun from me. I'm saying it as a, like, how are you physically going to accomplish that? I don't know. That's my problem. I think people, I said this to somebody once. They're like, well, it's going to take a few weeks. I'm like, a few weeks? Oh, okay. Oh my God. You have no idea what you're talking about at this point. Like, this is not even me pro or con against an issue. It's like, how are you going to do this? What you're saying? Talk sense, man. Anyway, so I don't see how that is possible for comics either. You're not going to go, comic shop to comic shop with a list buying up comics. It's not going to now be an amazing way to drive the price up for some of these issues, but how would you even do that? So I think that this is an interesting debate, and you see, CBR does an article on it, and different news sites do an article about this and everything else, but it feels like everybody's dancing around the issue a little bit. You can either not put these in print, or you can say, hey, we're going to solve it for today, but we can't go back and change the past. This is just the way it is. What do you do? I had somebody come at me pretty hard saying, oh, so you think people should sell racist comics? No, I don't. I don't think you should make comics in 2021 this way. But if you're also in the business of putting out collections of comics, I don't know how you just skip eras. I mean, you could do it, but then you're not publishing a collection of the era. Do you know what I mean? You're no longer doing what you said you were going to do. So I just don't know what your plan is. And I think the other challenge you have here is that, and this is my own personal opinion, and I know people disagree, but you can't just hide this stuff and just pretend it never existed. That doesn't work. We know that doesn't work. Like, Disney has tried. I mean, God, they have tried. Mickey, there are cartoon strips done with Mickey that are crazy racist and violent. Like, Mickey is a nightmare. He is like murdering people, and there's just super racist caricatures of black people, and I think they're trying to cook them in a pot. It's just terrible stuff. And Disney has tried their hardest to keep it out. And now, granted, Disney isn't printing these images on T-shirts and selling them at Disney World, but they're still out there, and you can find them on the internet, and they're there. So if the solution is, hey, Marvel or DC, don't print these comics in your past that did this kind of stuff. Again, you can do that, but the comics are still out there. People are still going to see it. So, and then Marvel and DC comic publishers have a problem that Disney doesn't have. There is this idea of collectors, of people who want runs of comics, who want the original content. And that, as opposed to some, handful of racist Mickey comic strips, you're talking about many, many issues that featured this stuff. So what do you do? Please don't get me wrong. I am not suggesting that you just, just put that stuff out there everywhere. I'm not suggesting that. As somebody who's been to Japan a lot, as somebody who has, relatives who are Japanese, it's not, I don't want them, to pick up a copy of, Superman screaming at a bunch of Japanese people. But I also I can't eliminate the fact that this is what happened in the past, and so to me, it's better to it's better to deal with it rather than kind of try and run and hide from it and pretend it never existed. That just doesn't work. But my question to you, a long video, I talked through my feelings on the topic. I want to hear yours. What do you do? Please, if you have a genius idea, you're smarter than me. I imagine most of the people in this video are listening to it right now are smarter than me. Tell me what we do. How do you deal with this real situation, which is comics are printed, they're part of runs, collectors want them. By the way, let me also throw this in there. I don't believe that there are crazy racist people who are buying these comics because they're crazy racist people. I think the guy who's trying to buy the World War II copies of Superman are doing it because they want the investment of it. They love the character. They want every Superman comic. Who knows? But they're not buying it because they are, hillbilly white supremacists who want a racist Superman comic. I, Number one, those people do not have the cash typically to put up for this stuff. Two, if they want that kind of material, there are way more and easier and more straightforward things. If you are a crazy white supremacist, I don't think you want to hear about, you don't want to be picking up a comic where Superman is talking about, truth, justice, and the American way, and all humans are good, and while he's doing seemingly hypocritical things to other races, this is not the best place for that kind of hatred. It just that's not how people are going to think. I may be wrong about this. Granted, there's a whole concept of just hating somebody for their race is weird to me, is regardless. But so maybe I don't have the mentality of somebody who. But I just like, are there people who are crazy racist going out and trying to buy up crazy racist comics like from the 40s? I mean, just God, what a slow and terrible way to do anything like that. That would not accomplish anything. But what do I know? What would you do? I've talked about this. Probably got myself into trouble with all kinds of different people. But to me, this is a problem that needs a pragmatic, honest solution and not a bunch of silliness. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Like and subscribe, or unsubscribe if I've offended you badly. I apologize if I did. And most importantly, thanks for listening.